Two whole videos I managed to eke out in the entirety of the year of 2022. This one only days, hours before the year ends. But here I am. Well, hey there, my witchy ruminators, introspectors, and self-reflectors of YouTube. It's me, your boy Shane, and welcome back to my channel, as the case may be. I know it's been quite a while, and I will address that at the end of this video. First, I want to cover what I came here to talk about, which was my, kind of vlog-style witchy year in review, all the things that I've accomplished and I've worked on in terms of my craft and my spirituality. And then towards the end, I'll talk a little bit about why I've been missing in action for these past 11 months. This year was a doozy, but let's get into it. In terms of coven life, I guess one of the more exciting things was we did initiate a new witch back in May, or as I like to say, we have inflicted another witch upon the world. He has been super patient with us through the process of navigating kind of a remote outer court or a hybrid outer court during the height of the pandemic. We took him on in late 2020, early 2021, and with a lot of things still weren't open. People still weren't really very comfortable meeting in groups, large or small. And he was kind of our guinea pig for, the first remote outer court or training group that we've ever run. And so we, my magical partner and I had a lot of learning to do, in addition to this student doing his own learning. We were kind of like feeling it out and navigating that together. And he was very patient and he did the work, and he was an all-around good dude, and we were very pleased and proud to welcome him to the coven in May of this year. So that was great. We also took 2 students all the way through an outer court curriculum. So starting in January and just completing a few weeks ago, an entire year's worth of training. We started out the class with 4 people, and 2 decided that this path was not for them, which happens. And when that happens, we celebrate that with them as well, because that's an important discovery too. So they are off seeking out other things, and that's groovy. But 2 have stayed the course and really did a lot of great work. And, we never push initiation. We never, we don't even suggest it. We actually have a pretty hard and fast policy in our coven of, the candidate must ask for initiation. We don't ask them like, hey, so what are you thinking? Do you think you're ready? Do you want to put something on a calendar? Because it has to come from within, right? So, they are preparing right now their final projects. We make them do like a little presentation at the end. So they are preparing to do their teach back sessions in January, and we'll see where it goes from there. But either way, however it ends up going, they were an absolute, the both of them, just a pleasure to be around and a delight to take through the curriculum. And they asked some really great questions. We had some really valuable and worthwhile discussions. And yeah, I had forgotten. Oh, really, Kitty? Yeah, you're going to put in a cameo appearance? All right, do it. Do it. I dare you. I'd forgotten kind of how pleasant it was to lead an outer court, because it's been a couple of years. And sometimes it's daunting and it's a lot of work. And so it was actually really nice. That being said, yes, thank you. Okay, I see we're taking a petting break and there's just no fighting it. Yes, my sweet boy. Yes, my sweet boy. This is what I get for not doing my videos at home and for doing them at my partner's home. But whatever. That's about it for the coven. We did kind of have a really fun, like, inter-coven retreat weekend. my magical partner owns a cabin in upstate New York, and so he and I and a couple of witch friends from, kind of the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area-ish, and California and Massachusetts, just a little bit like from here and there, a little bit of all over the place. We had a nice long weekend in August, and we got to do ritual together and learn from each other and, pick each other's brains. Oh, and we even had an international member of the cult come and hang with us. So a young and beautiful and brilliant witch from the UK actually spent about a week with me. He crashed at my place, and he visited several other covens in the U.S., and he went on like this whirlwind trip. I had a good time hosting him, and then he also joined us on that extended weekend cabin retreat. So we definitely got to learn a lot about how one of like the OG British covens operate and how they practice and how they ritualize. So that was pretty sweet. I love having that kind of like intercoven, interline, whatever discussion, and learning about that. I attended a gather. It's like a big weekend camping trip for mostly Gardnerian initiates, and sometimes students and like spouses. And that was lovely. That's always, honestly, it's one of the highlights of my year. I always say that I would prefer to go to one of these gatherings than like a Caribbean cruise or like Disney World. Like, they mean a lot to me. I get to reconnect with a lot of people that I don't get to see at other times of the year. And, ritual with your coven and ritual with just you and yourself and your gods. Of course, those things are beautiful. But there's also something about like huge community ritual that just gets me right here. So the gathering was, it was glorious. Unfortunately, it was cut short for me for reasons that, again, I will get into at the end of this video because a lot's been going on this year. But also during that weekend retreat, I got to conduct a hand fasting for a dear friend of mine and actually one of my initiates, but we were friends first for about a decade. And now he's in my coven, and I got to perform the hand fasting for him and his lovely wife in front of, a massive gathering of community members. The ritual was very short and sweet and heartfelt and just all around lovely. And it was beautiful. I'm glad that I was able to stay at the weekend retreat long enough to do that. Because that meant a lot to me. And, that was my second hand fasting. I also did one from one of my sisters, in 2019. So this is the second time I've done one, and, never gets old. It's such a good feeling to be able to facilitate that for someone. So I think in terms of like community involvement, that's about it. For myself, coven and myself, several times this year, instead of the high priestess role, I swapped with my partner and performed the high priest role, as I continue to explore my gender identity and, how that kind of dovetails with magic and metaphysics and my role, in the priesthood of the Gardnerian tradition, and in that context. And there's been like a lot of, inner work about that this year, as well as, some soul searching and some conversations with my loved ones about, am I going to take steps to further my transition, either surgically or pharmacologically, so a lot of that type of work. Also in terms of just things that were for me and me alone, I got a badass tattoo. So this is kind of how I visualize the goddess. And these were some of the reference photos that I had furnished my artist with. I do go to a full custom studio, so they like when you provide references and give them some kind of direction, and then they create some artwork from there. Or I guess I should say I started a badass tattoo. As you can see, it's not yet complete. It has to be kind of colored in. My artist did warn me that it would take about 2 sessions, and I'm just waiting for the stars to align where he's got time, I've got time, with school and everything else that I'm dealing with, and he has a free appointments, and we've got to make this happen in 2023 because it's a stunning piece, and I cannot wait, for it to be completed. Also, in terms of my own art, I have sewed ritual robes before, but this year I got to sew a ritual robe for an absolutely darling client, like just the sweetest human being to ever walk the blue-green earth. And I sewed my first hood, believe it or not. After all the years that I've been sewing, I've always like kind of shied away from it, right? It always intimidated me a little bit. So, yeah, so I got that done. And I'm thrilled with the way it came out. I just love all the delicious little details, like this sexy deep neckline. And this was my roommate being kind enough to model it for me in the absence of me owning a proper dress form. These sleeves came out just absolutely flawlessly. I was very proud. And this is the hood, the very first hood that I've ever made. And yeah, I'm just very happy with it overall. And additionally, in terms of myself, again, I've said it in these videos, I've said it on this channel time and time again, but it bears repeating. The craft is not therapy. The craft is not a substitute for therapy. And I know a lot of people kind of shy away from anything that psychologizes the craft too much. But I'm a firm believer in that while those things are true, the craft can be therapeutic. Or perhaps more accurately, right, my witchcraft and my spirituality kind of bolsters me and supports me, or at least engages in parallel play and really helps me on the road to becoming my best self. So I consider these things kind of tangentially craft related, even though they're not maybe exactly in that same realm. But this year I also went back to therapy after about a 2-year hiatus. It was time for me to go back and talk to a counselor. I've been going through a lot this year, as I said. And I promise I will not tease you with that for too much longer. I am getting there. I came out to more people this year, as trans, and not just trans non-binary. I've started preparing a lot of the people in my life who I'm closest to, with the, I don't want to say warning, that's the wrong word, but is it? I've kind of started preparing my loved ones with the information that while I enjoy being non-binary and finding that language, finding that terminology was like an eye-opener for me. It was a true game changer. Like, I never knew that there was a word for how I felt, right? I don't know if my journey, I hate that word. I don't know if my journey ends there, right? I don't think I'm done cooking, right? I don't think I'm finished baking yet. And, the way that I've been putting it to a lot of my friends and family is like, I feel like I got off the elevator at the non-binary floor for a few years and it was groovy. It was exactly what I needed at the time. But I think, something in me just wants to go further. And I don't know what that looks like yet. I just know that, like, this has cropped up for me now a couple of times in my life, and I keep ignoring it and keep squashing it and keep pushing it back down, and it just keeps resurfacing. So clearly something's there, right? I changed my pronouns to a lot of friend groups, and, they were formerly they, them, and now it's, they, he. So they, them, or he, him are equally appropriate and welcomed. Like I said, I have the feeling that where I am right now in my kind of self-discovery, gender-neutral language is always going to be appropriate. It's always going to be accurate. But I can no longer deny that when people use he, him, or, other masculine kind of terms for me, I just glow all over. Like it just warms me to the tips of my toes. And that's gotta mean something, I've started wearing a binder more often. I'm not wearing one today because, again, I'm at my partner's house and I don't have everything that I ordinarily have if I would be at home. And, just some small changes. And I'm just trying to see where that takes me in the future. But yeah, that's been this year in terms of like my own development spiritually and mentally and whatever else. And it's been a rough year. Like I said, I haven't been on it. It's December now. It's, like I said, a couple days left to 2022, and I haven't made a video since January, because it has been a rough one. In the spring, I failed one of my nursing courses and had to repeat it in the fall. And in the fall, I came dangerously close to failing it a second time and, being asked to not continue with the program. But we are back on the right track now. I have an understanding of where to go from here, and, the content is making sense, and I could go on about that for a long time, but also I don't want to, because school was very stressful this year. So school definitely threw me for a loop. See, I can't even speak straight. And it took up a lot of time and focus and energy and mental processes for me this year, and I didn't have much capacity for anything else. And if that weren't enough, in late spring, early summer, my parents know that I'm sharing this information. I mean, to be clear, my parents do not know about this YouTube channel, but they know that I'm sharing this information with friends and, on my other social media channels. Like, I'm keeping my family kind of abreast of the situation, as updates come in from their healthcare providers. Like, I'm posting the updates on Facebook, and so they know that I'm not, just out here kind of, or they know I am out here just kind of like sharing their, their news with the world. But in late spring, early summer, my dad was diagnosed with a rare blood/bone marrow cancer. And he has been in treatment for that, starting with all the diagnostics and spinal taps and this and that and the other, starting in like April and May and going on through the summer and initiating treatment. I spent a lot of time getting him set up with, one of the premier cancer treatment centers in the United States, if not the world, getting all that settled, dealing with that. Finally getting into a kind of stable place with Dad, and then in mid-September, my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. To which, you have to have a sense of humor, dark humor about these things, because if you don't laugh, you cry. But after the shock of that had worn off in a few days, I said to them, I was like, what are you, competing with each other? What is this? But yeah, I actually got the news while I was at that weekend retreat with about 100 or so. I don't know how many people attend, but Gardnerians. I was actually I forgot about this. I was in the middle of teaching a workshop. On magical efficacy, and I got a phone call from my sister, who was with my mom at the hospital. Yeah. Because she had gone in for what she thought was a completely unrelated. We thought she was having a gallbladder attack. I had my gallbladder out in 2020. It was actually the subject of some of these videos because a couple of witchy friends came over to nurse me back to health, and we made some fun videos together while they were here. So I know I've mentioned that before, but, most of the women and people assigned female at birth in my family have had gallbladder issues, have had gallbladders removed. So when she started to experience similar symptoms, we're like, haha, sucker, it's your turn. And then it turns out that's not what it was. And we were all completely blindsided. So I've been getting her back and forth to treatment. She had just actually finished round 1 of chemo. And, we'll see what the new year holds. But anyway, that's why I've been incommunicado all year. I've had a lot on my plate. I'm hoping 2023 is... you know what? Never mind. I can't even say that with a straight face. not going to be any calmer or easier. And the sooner I make my peace with that, the better off I'll be. But I hope to continue to juggle that marvelously and, take care of both of my parents and go to school and hopefully make more than 2 videos in 2023. But, friends, now we are caught up. It was lovely to see you. It was lovely to do this again and have some sort of sense of normalcy back in my life, finally. So please feel free to leave a comment and let me know what were some of your highlights of 2022. What were your top witchy accomplishments? What are you feeling good about? What are you looking forward to in 2023? Whatever you want to say to me, I'm here for it. I've really missed having a dialogue with you guys. And yeah, that's it. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. This is not even my cat. This is my partner's cat. Although he says it's mine now, But,